What makes a great entrepreneur?
Somebody who's curious. They want to keep on learning because business is ever changing. It's never static. Somebody who's agile because as you learn new things and the environment around you changes, you have to be able to adapt and make the changes. And somebody who can sell because no business has ever survived without sales. And as an entrepreneur who's creating a company, whatever your product or service is, if that's not the most important thing and you're just dying and excited to tell people about it, then you're not going to succeed. Selling is just helping. I've always looked at it about putting myself in the shoes of another person and asking a simple question. Can I help this person? Can my product help them? From the time I was 12 years old, selling garbage bags door to door and just asking a simple question. Do you use garbage bags? Do you need garbage bags? Well, let me save you some time. I'll bring them to your house and drop them off. To, streaming. Why do we need streaming when we have TV and radio? Well, you can't get access to your TV and radio everywhere you go. So we kind of break down geographic and physical barriers and, cost plus drugs. What's the product that we actually sell? We sell trust. In a simplistic approach, we buy drugs to sell drugs, but we add transparency to it. And bringing transparency to an industry is a differentiation, and it helps people. Typically, in my career, where I've started companies, it's to do something that other people aren't doing, whether it was connecting PCs and to local area networks and at Micro Solutions. And, the salesmanship was walking into a company and just saying, look, talk to me and I can help you improve your productivity and your profitability. Is that important to you? And the answer is obviously always yes. And then the question is, can I do the job and can I do it cost effectively? And so you didn't have to be a born salesperson to be able to ask those questions, but you have to be able to be willing to put in the time to learn that business. And that's the hardest part. I read like a maniac. Then, like now, you can give me an example of any type of business, and it'll take me 2 seconds to figure out how they make money and how I can make them more productive. And I think that's probably my biggest skill, being able to just drill down to what the actual need is, if any. And then, from there, being able to say, well, if this is what this company does and this is what their goal is, how can I introduce something new that they haven't seen before? And is that a business that I can create and make money from?
You think you're born with that?
No, I worked at it because, going back to what I said earlier about curiosity, you have to be insanely curious because the world is always changing. My dad used to say, we don't live in the world we were born into, which is absolutely true. If you're not a voracious consumer of information, then you're not going to be able to keep up. And no matter what your sales skills or ability are, they're going to be useless. And you got to know what you're good at when you're bad at, right? I was good at, I was a ready, fire, aim guy. And I always partnered with people who were very anal and perfectionists because where I could just go, they would keep me inside the baselines.
What does it take to take that first leap into starting a business?
That's the hardest part. It really depends on your personal circumstances. Like I got fired. I was sleeping on the floor, 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment. So I couldn't go any lower. So there was no downside. Yeah, there was no downside for me starting a business. And it was just like, I was 25 when we started Micro Solutions, and, I just gotten fired, and it was like, look, I'm a lousy employee. I'm going to just start going to some of my prospects that I had at my job and ask them to front the money that I needed to install some software, and found this company, Architectural Lighting, who put up $500 for me. That allowed me to buy software and have 50% margins. And, that's how I started my company. You've got to be in a position where you're confident. I get emails and approached by people all the time, what kind of business should I start? That tells me you're not ready to start a business, right? Either you're prepared and you know it or you don't. In the United States, with the American dream, everybody kind of always looks at themselves and say, okay, I have this idea, right? And then you go through this process of saying, okay, you talk to your friends or family, what do you think? And then almost always say, oh, it's a great idea, right? Then you go on Google and you say, oh my God, no one else is doing it, without thinking, 10 companies have gone out of business trying the same thing. But okay, it's on Google. And then people stop, right? Because that next step means, okay, I have to change what I'm doing in my life. And that's not easy for 99% of the people. Some people look at that as an opportunity and get excited about it. Some people get terrified because it's, okay, maybe I'm comfortable, maybe I have responsibilities, And so whatever your circumstances are, if you want to take that next step, you have to be able to deal with the consequences of changing your circumstances. And that's the first thing. Do you save money? So you have, if you have a job, do you have a mortgage? Do you have a family? You got to save money. You can't just walk. They've got to eat and they've got to have shelter. But on the other side of the coin, if you've got nothing, it's the perfect time to start a business, right? Particularly when you get fired and you don't have a job, and you're looking at bartending at night to try to pay the bills. And so it wasn't hard for me, but to your point, it really comes down to preparation. If it's important enough to you, you'll save the money. You'll give up, whatever it is you need to give up to put the money aside. If you have obligations, you'll put in the work to learn as much as you can about that industry so that when you start your business, you're prepared. And you can always, at night, on weekends, whenever you find time, lunch, start making the calls to find out if people will write you a check, or transfer you the money to buy whatever it is you're selling. And by doing those things, you can put yourself in a position to succeed. It's where people just think, okay, Geronimo, I'm leaping off the edge of a cliff and I'm starting a business. That's tough. If you're going into a new business, you're going to have competition unless you're really, 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 really lucky. Yeah. And that competition is not going to just say, okay, let Lex or Mark just kick our ass.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be prepared to how you're going to deal with that competition. Creating a business gives you the greatest potential upside and the greatest leverage on your time, but it also creates the most risk.